Judges 7 through 11. We've been talking, and I didn't even realize it. So if you see it on Facebook or YouTube, we're putting together a series called "It's Time to Shift," because it's time for so many of us to shift out of our old mindset, our old ways, our old habits, our old practices. Look at somebody and say it's time to shift. And so last week we were talking about Gideon. So let's get back into it. Judges 7 through 11. We'll read a little bit. We'll go from there. It says, the Lord said to Gideon, with the 300 men that lapped, I will save you and give the Midianites into your hands. Let all the others go home. So Gideon sent the rest of the Israelites home, but he kept the 300 who took over the provisions and trumpets of the others. Now the camp of Midian lay below him in the valley. Verse 9 says, during that night, the Lord said to Gideon, get up, go down against the camp, because I want you to highlight this, because I am going to give it into your hands. Verse number 10, if you are afraid, highlight that. If you are afraid to attack, go down to the camp with your servant Purah and listen to what they are saying. I need you to highlight this is good to me. Afterward, highlight afterward, you will be encouraged to attack the camp. So he and Purah, his servant, went down to the outposts of the camp. For just a simple title, this is real easy. We're all struggling. Some of us are dealing with, it's just dealing with the doubt. Dealing with doubt. Dealing with doubt. See, I wanted to start just a little bit different because the question that I really want to ask you, if I give you the outcome, if I give you the formula, now I need y'all to answer this. If I give you the outcome and if I give you the formula, will you do it if I get it in this sermon right here? I like it. If I give you the outcome and if I give you the formula, will you go home and work on this? All right, so we're ready to roll. Look at your neighbor and say, I'm ready to do it. All right, so let's go. So here's the thing. If you will go home and focus on this process, I can show you how God can use you to be victorious even though you are struggling and dealing with doubt. Is there anybody in here that's ever had to deal with doing something and being doubtful about it? Just raise your hand. Anybody? I want to see the hands. Raise them up real high. Don't try to look like you ain't never doubted nothing. Look around the room. Everyone in this room has had to move forward when they were dealing with doubt. And last week we started talking about Gideon, and we ended up stopping in chapter 6 where Gideon was visited by the Lord in one of his lowest places in his life, and he was told that he would deliver the children of Israel from the hand of the Midianites who had been oppressing them for 7 years. But the thing is, the children of Israel had gotten back into disobedience. They had gotten back into idol worship, and they had just broken the covenant that they had with God. But now we get to the place that all of us want to get to. All of us want to be victorious. All of us want to do what God said. All of us want to stand on the throne. All of us want to give God the credit for it, but don't nobody want to deal with the doubt. And God is about to do something in Gideon that proves that only he as God could do it. And the reason he had to do it like this, because if you felt like you could do it at all on your own, you wouldn't even give God credit for it. So let's look at it. Look, chapter 7, verse 2. It says, chapter 7, 2. It says, and the Lord said to Gideon, the people who are with you are too many for me to give the Midianites into their hands, lest Israel claim glory for itself against me, saying, my own hand has saved me. Now, therefore, proclaim in the hearing of the people, saying, whoever is fearful and afraid, let him turn and depart at once from Mount Gilead. And 22,000 of the people returned, and only 10 remained. And so here's what's happening. Gideon was preparing to fight this Midianite army with 32,000 people, was less than half of what they were going up against. But God said, guess what? If I let you do it with that many people, you will assume that you had something to do with this. So I will create a situation in your life that it will only be proof that I was the only one that could have done this with you. See, there are some things that you are dealing with your life that God has allowed to happen, because if they did not happen, you would think it was your college degree. You would think it was your education. You would think it was your faithfulness. You would think it's your good looks and your skill set. And so God allowed you to go to a place so that you could trust him, because if it wasn't for that, we would never turn back to God. And some of us are trying to figure out, well, God, why did you let me go through this? Because he said he wants the glory. Look at somebody and say, he wants his glory. You can't handle it by yourself. And so God is saying, all right, then, you think you got this? $32,000 is enough? $150,000 a year is enough? Guess what? I'm going to cut that in half. Because I got to do something to show you that it ain't about your job. It ain't about your intelligence. It's been about me the whole time. Oh, y'all, I'm starting to figure, I said I wasn't going to do that today, but I'm starting to feel all right. You got your network of people, and you think just because you can call folks and your friends got money, that when you go through a situation, they're going to give it to you. They might not give it to you because it ain't about the money. It's about the favor of God. And I can do more with God's favor than money any day. Oh, man, I'm trying to slow down. Oh, but I'm excited. So let's look at it. So let's look at it. So he went from 32,000 down to 10,000. Now, 10,000 is like 1/10, less than 1/10 of what they were going up against. So let's keep looking. Verse 5. Now, somebody ought to be getting excited, because right now somebody's going through a situation and you're trying to figure out, how in the world am I going to make it through this situation? I need you to understand that sometimes the reason you're going through the situation you're going through is not because you've just been so bad, but God wants you to turn back to him, and he wants you to give him the credit for it. So you ought to get excited. So let's look at verse 5. Woo. It says, so he brought the people down to the water. And the Lord said to Gideon, everyone who laps from the water with his tongue as a dog laps, you shall set apart by himself. Likewise, everyone who gets down on his knees to drink. Verse number 6 says, and the number of those who lapped, putting their hand to their mouth, was 300. But all of the rest of the people got down on their knees to drink. Verse number 7 says, then the Lord said to Gideon, by 300 men who lapped, I will save you. By $300 that's in your bank account, I will save you. By 300 text messages, I will save you. By the last mite that you have, I will save you, because I need you to recognize that this ain't about you. It's all about me. It says, let all the other people go, every man to his place. So now Gideon goes on to attack the Midianite camp with only 300 men. And he wins this battle. And I love that we look at Gideon and we say that God saw in him something that he was going to be, and not just where we are. But how many of y'all, that ain't all that happened right here? That's not all. And he did that, but he did what so many of us do. He had a propensity to doubt. And the propensity to doubt is your natural inclination to question or distrust anything that is not proven. Some of y'all have gotten into some negative thinking. You think bad about people. You think bad about churches. You think bad about, you go to a restaurant and you ready for them to mess up your service. Some of y'all go out there, you put your tip on the, y'all know y'all do, you put your tip on the table. Every time they mess up, you take $1 off your tip. Y'all know somebody that do that, don't you? Y'all know, folks. You know they about to give you some bad service. But get it. But we have gotten to a place where we have a natural inclination to doubt. And so what Gideon did is, we give him credit for being a mighty warrior. And yes, he went on to win the battle. But Gideon had to figure out how to move and do, even though he was struggling with his own unbelief, y'all. Gideon doubted God. He doubted himself. Gideon doubted the mission. Gideon doubted God's timing. Gideon doubted the method. Gideon doubted his strength. Gideon doubted his ability to lead the people. Gideon sounds just like me, y'all. You ever been in a place where God called you to do something and you felt so unqualified, like God picked somebody else? And people don't understand it because they look at you in your position and they like, ooh, Tafana, you just look so good doing what you do. You're so confident. You're so strong. They look at your business. Sharm, you started a business in COVID. It must have been easy because you make it look so good. You're smiling all the time. And they say, Jeff, man, you're so well put together, man. You must have had an easy walk in life. They have no clue that you have to get through doubt to get to where God called you to. Anybody ever struggle with doubt? And if we are not careful, the enemy will keep us in our doubt to keep us from getting to where God called us to. And so now you end up with all of these great ideas that you never implement because you've not only been doubting yourself, but you're doubting that God can use you to do it. Is anybody ready to shift today? Look at somebody and say, I'm dealing with my doubt. Pastor Campbell spoke a message probably about 18, 19, 20 years ago. He said, get 3D. And it was destroying the doubt. And every once in a while, I don't even remember the message that he had with it, but I remember that you got to destroy the doubt that you were dealing with to get to what God called you to. We keep doubt right in front of us. We heard clearly what God said. He told me. He told you. It's people waiting for you to get to where you need to get because they're ready to eat too. I had this whole example planned out, but I didn't have time to do it. I was going to set up a table, and I was going to, the Bible said he will prepare a table for you in the presence of your enemies. So it was going to be some enemies sitting at their table. And then it was going to be some friends sitting at their table. And then it was going to be some people that don't even know you sitting at their table. It's people waiting for you to get in place because they're ready to eat, but they can't eat until you come to the table. Your family waiting for you to get outside of your doubt. Your friends waiting for you. People that don't know you waiting for you to get over your doubt so that everybody can eat. Look at somebody and say, it's time to eat. Oh, man, I feel all right today. And although he doubted, he was able to deal with it. But many of us are still struggling, and we can't because we're so caught up in the propensity to doubt. Some of us didn't heard God speak. But what happens is your natural inclination is based on your past experience. It's based on your beliefs. It's based on your past disappointments. It's based on your past relationships. But it's time for somebody to keep on walking today. See, many of us, God has already given us the instruction. But you're too scared to move. The people are waiting for you. But you're too scared to move. Your relationship won't change. But you're still too scared to move. Your finances won't change, but you're too scared to move because you have such an inclination to doubt what God gave you. I need you to get to a place where you stop buying in to your own doubt. Because sometimes the doubt that we have is a story that we made up in our minds. Ask yourself this question, really. Ask yourself, how many things have I really failed at that God told me to do? What have you failed? What have you failed at that you did it the way God called you to do it? You know how we end up messing it up? Because we end up doing it our way. We do it in our timing. And we don't follow all of the instructions that God gave us. And some things that we go through, God allows it so that we can learn from it. But you getting caught up in your doubt. How many times have you failed when God was with you? You say you're a child of God. You say you got the anointing. The anointing don't just speak in tongues. The anointing allows you to be obedient to what God said. When was the last time God told you to go speak to somebody and forgive them, and then it did not work out? Whether it's for them or whether it's for you. When was the last time God failed? Let's keep going. Let's keep going. So Gideon didn't start out like this mighty warrior like he ended up being, right? He had been in bondage for 7 years, which means that here's the thing that got me. They said that he had only been in bondage. They said that he had been in bondage for 7 years. Gideon had to be a young man at this time, so the majority of his life, he had to have been doing pretty good, right? So how is it that he was basing everything that he was going to do for the rest of his life on a brief period of struggle? Some of us have gotten so caught up in that brief period of struggle that we can't move forward no more because we sat in just this one situation. The situation or the place that you are is just temporary. Look at somebody and say, it's just temporary. We would sing songs at funerals and we would say, this world is not my home. I'm just passing through. I need you to say, I'm passing through this temporary situation. Woo! And so guess what? Somebody hadn't joined New Beginning. Somebody hadn't joined this church because of your propensity to doubt. You're still struggling with church people. Some people haven't given their life back to Christ yet. So this ain't just about business or being a mighty warrior. Some of us have not done practical things because we have a propensity to doubt. Some of us haven't given our life back to Christ yet because we said, well, I tried it one time and it didn't work. Some of us haven't spoken to people. Some of us haven't done things that God called us to because you have such a propensity to doubt that you assume everything is going to fail. I need you to look at somebody and say, God will get the glory. Oh, man. You need to look at yourself and say that. Self, God will get the glory. So the question is, how do I move forward when I'm struggling with doubt? Let's look at verse number 10. Oh, man. If you are afraid to attack, go down to the camp with your servant Purah and listen to what they are saying. Afterward, highlight it again, you will be encouraged to attack the camp. So he and Purah, his servant, went down to the outposts of the camp. My wife was the first person that I ever really heard say this. There's other people that are saying, but point number one, you got to do it afraid. And we say it, you got to do it. Do it afraid. Do it afraid. See, some of us are waiting to not be fearful to proceed. That ain't what it is. You got to do it afraid. See, you won't always be confident in the instruction that God has given you. Sometimes you might even wonder why and how, but you still got to do it even though you are afraid. You got to do it afraid, y'all. God didn't spell it out before he went down there. He said, after you go, you will then be encouraged to attack. And I love how they did it. Somebody you was waiting to be encouraged to do something. You was sitting there, you waiting on God to give you the plan. You ain't moved, you ain't done nothing but sit in your house and question why you still in the same place that you were in last year this time, even though Pastor Hunter gave us a good word about thriving all year. And it's because you are waiting to get motivated. Sometimes action happens before motivation. How many people, have you ever noticed that you can't lose weight until you do something? Have you ever noticed? You can sit there and think about all the weight you're going to lose. And you can put your workout plan together and everything. And you got it all written out. Now you praying, Lord, I don't understand why I ain't losing no weight yet. God, you said that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. You said that I would be the lender and not the borrower. You got all these plans of stuff that God has told you to do, but you ain't lost no weight because you ain't been to the gym yet. And Tafana, you can't talk about me no more because it's been a whole month I've been in the gym. 5:30 in the morning, y'all. Where Catrilia at, Pat? Tell her, take that, take that. I ain't pointing no fingers in there. I ain't that kind of person or nothing. But the first time I went, y'all, Tavana talked about my ankles and stuff so bad. But we are questioning why God hasn't done things yet. But all we've done is sit there and write it down and think about it. Some of us got the same plan for the business that we had 20 years ago. Some of us got the same plan for our career that we had 20 years ago. And it's good. But the Bible says write the vision and make it plain on what? On tablets. Why? So that people can run with it. You said it just right, and God said, I need you to run. Look at somebody say it's time to run. Oh, it's time to run. You have already gotten the instruction, but you still waiting. And I love how it's written down right here. Look at verse 10. It says, if you are afraid to attack, go down to the camp with your servant. The very next verse says, then he went down with Purah, his servant, to the outpost, which this meant that he was still afraid. He went down there because God had already given him the plan. But God said, if you are not sure by now, then you go down there and see for yourself. And see, and so now he went down there. But the problem is, this is what we do. Let's look at, oh man, this is so good to me. This wasn't an easy task. God had already told Gideon that he was going to win. The soldiers were already ready to fight. Gideon was the one that was struggling because he couldn't believe that God was about to do it. So Gideon was still doubting. Everybody else sees the anointing over you. Everybody else sees what you're called to do except you. People have been prophesying to you your whole life on what you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to do. People waiting for you to get in place because it's time to eat. Oh, man, let's look at it. Y'all believe it? Let's look at it. The soldiers knew. The soldiers were prepared. It was Gideon that was struggling. It's people in here right now that's ready to even move even further than me. But you can't go no further than I am. So I'm saying, God, get me in every place, in every room, around every person I need to be around so that we can bless the people of God even more than we did in 2025. But you know who got to get out the way first? Me. You know why your business ain't got started yet? You. You know the reason you ain't gone to the gym yet? You. You know the reason why you haven't started doing that thing God called you to? It's you. Stop blaming everybody else and everything else that's going around. And sometimes you got to look in this mirror. Because people are waiting for you to get in place. So now let's look at it. Verse number 8. It says, so the people took provisions and their trumpets in their hands, and he went away, all the rest of Israel, every man to his tent, and retained those 300 men. Now the camp of Midian was below him in the valley. And it happened it happened on the same night that the Lord said to him, arise, go down to the camp, for I have delivered into your hand. The camp was already delivered into his hand, but Gideon had a hard time believing what God was saying. God has already said, God said you were going to be the lender, not the borrower. He said you were going to be the head, not the tail. He said you were going to be above and not beneath, but you're still beneath because you haven't taken action to get in your rightful place that God called you to be. See, the instruction was to go down and take the camp. It said, but if you are scared. Now, this is what's so crazy. He said, but if you're scared, then go down to the camp and act like a spy. Now, he could have already taken over the camp, but he said, if you scared, go down there and act like a spy, and then go down there and try not to get recognized, and then go down there and listen to what they're saying, and then go down there and don't get caught, and then go down there and do all of this simply so you can feel more confident in something that I already told you had the victory to do. Sometimes we go through more trouble doubting than we would if we would just follow God's instruction in the first place. You see all the other steps, he could have been finished. He could have won the battle. They could have gone on home. But he had to go into reconnaissance mode just so he could believe what God said. You ever looked at your children and it took them 10 years, 10 minutes, 10 hours to do something, and you look at them and say, you could have been finished if you had just done it when I told you to do it. They ain't emptied the trash in the morning as 11 o'clock and they were getting ready to go to bed. Now they got an attitude with you because they got to put their clothes on and go empty the trash. And you sitting there like, well, if you just had to empty the trash at 10:30 this morning, then we'd be done with this. God is looking at some of y'all and saying, if you would have just done this 5 years ago, we could be 5 years ahead right now. Now I got to redeem the time because you were too scared to take your place. People that's waiting to be blessed by you getting in position. You done took too long. I need you to get in position, Sean. Pastor Cameron, I need you to get in position because I'm ready to eat. It's some of y'all that's got to get in position so the people around you can eat. Oh, man, that ain't in my notes, Perry. I knew, but that somebody, y'all, you got to get in your rightful place. And you take it too long because you being selfish and doubting God. I already told you in the beginning, if I give you the outcome and if I give you the process, will you go back and do it? Now, y'all believe me now? Will you believe me now? All right, let's keep going. We almost there. And so you got to ask yourself, what have you wasted time doing because you were afraid? You end up spending more energy. You end up stressing out The propensity of doubt will have you with anxiety attacks. Because in some cases, we're just scared to move in what God called us to. I told you last week, sometimes we got to stop asking why. And you got to ask God how. It didn't work out like it was like I thought it was. God, how do you want me to go this time? God, they didn't say yes this time. How do you want me to go back next time? It took Moses a whole bunch of times to go back before he let the people go. And even though he let them go, he decided he wanted them back again. It might not happen the first time. God is building something inside of you. And the more you do it, the less you doubt. The more you pursue what God said, the less problems and the more willing you are to be obedient the next time. I should have done it the last. By the time you get to your second, third, fourth, fifth grant, your second, third, fourth, fifth job, your second, fourth, fifth, third, $10th million, by the time you get to that 10 million, you're like, I don't know why it took me so long to get to the 1 million. Oh, let's keep going. Verse number 10, it says, if you are afraid to attack, go down to the camp with your servant Purah. See, this is where some of us have the problem, though. This is where some of us have the problem. Now, you fill in the blank. Your friends, your work, the people you hang out with, the person you date, the person you marry. Point number 2 is you got to trust who God sends to go with you. Now, hear what I said. You got to trust who God sends to go with you, not who you chose. Sometimes we choosing the people that God didn't send for us. So we taking people that don't got no business going with us. And you got to trust them for the season that God has them in that place. Some of you are still holding on to people that God is waiting for you to let go. I can't get you in the place because these people can't go with you. God will put people in your life for a specific season to help you get to the place that he has for you. And so God said, let's look at it. It says, if you are afraid, go down to the camp with your servant Purah. There are people that are assigned to help you get to the place that can also see where God has called you to be. If the people around you can't see what God's got inside you, then you might need to question the people that you got around you. If people can't see the victory over your life, if people can't see what you called to be, you might need to get some more friends, is all I'm telling you. When you get ready to wild out and cuss people out, somebody got to be willing to tell you, you can't do that because God called you to be better than this. When you get ready to quit, the people around you got to say, no. You can't quit because God called you to do something greater than this. You know how many times I quit New Beginning over the 22 years? Pastor Calvin used to be like, you can't quit. You just can't do it. And I'm like, well, yes, I can. And I think one time Les wanted to quit and do some stuff. And she was like, I ain't getting paid no way. You're going to tell me I can't quit this free job. You got to have people around you that see what God called you to. You got to show them the vision, and they can't just be in awe. They got to be like, no. God said think bigger than that. You thinking too small. You got to have people that you show your business plan, and they say, well, no, you ain't doing enough. You need to record 5 times a week, not 2 times a week. You ask for $1 million. They say ask for $22 million. You want to buy 3 acres of land. No, you need to buy 23 acres of land. Your friends, God will put people in your life. Yeah, we'll keep moving. Turn me down just a little bit because I'm excited right now. We'll figure this out. We can do it without the mic if we got to. But some of you got to recognize who is around you because the people around you are the ones that are going to push you to what God called you to. Today, do this for me. Ask your friends. Text the people that are closest to you. They ain't even got to be your friends. They can be your business partner. Ask them, what do they see in your future? Ask your friends. Ask your spouse. Ask your auntie that you're real close to. Ask the people that you say you want to build a business with. Ask them, what, Mr. Green, how you doing? I meant to call you yesterday, and I didn't, and I'm just so glad to see you. Sir, you are just such a blessing to me, and I'm sorry for stopping service, but I didn't get a chance to call you yesterday, and I'm just so thankful that you're here. Now back to our regular scheduled program. But you got to get to it. Ask your friends this. Ask your friends, what do you see in my life? What is God showing you that I'm supposed to be doing? Your people around you are supposed to be able to see stuff sometimes that you can't even see for yourself. There's some things that I've done in my life that I wouldn't have been able to do if it wasn't for the people that are in my circle. Because they seeking God for me, they praying for me, they're interceding for me. They're not mad when I succeed. They're excited when I succeed. They sitting in my restaurant before I expanded, and they sitting there like, ooh, I can't wait till you get this other part of your restaurant, because in this part right here, these people gonna come, or those people gonna come. Or if I'm renting jet skis and I got 2, they like, ooh, I can't wait till you get 10, because then I'm gonna invite Verizon to come down here and ride your jet skis, or we're gonna get the Coast Guard to come down here. The people around you need to see what God has the capacity to do in your life. And if they encouraging you to sin and get outside of God's will, they ain't meant to be in your life anyway. Chuck the deuces. Deuces. Young people now be like, take me through that, take me through that. I'm sorry. I did it for Chloe. Make sure y'all tell her when y'all see it. And so here's the thing. Sometimes the person that's going with you is not significant in any other part of your life. Pura is not mentioned in any other part of the Bible except for going down there as a servant to get to see what was going on in the camp. Sometimes we holding on to people. God only expected them to be in your life for a little bit. Doesn't mean you can't be cool, but they're there to help you get to what God called you to. Stop trying to hold on to people for long periods of time when he's just got them in there for a season. Look, you got to let them go sometimes. But see, what happens is, all this goes back to our propensity to doubt. It'll cause you to doubt, not just to doubt what he says, but it'll cause you to doubt who he sends in your life. And you'll say stuff like, well, they don't like me like that. You ain't got to like me like that. If you see God on me, we ain't got to be best friends. I just need you to push me to where God called me to be. So we doubt. We doubt people. We doubt people based on our past relationship. Well, they hurt me over here, so they might hurt me over here. But that's all right. If God put you in my life, then you here for a season, and you just going to have to deal with me. And so sometimes you've become a loner. And because you are a loner, there are places that you haven't gotten because your lack of trust or doubt in people will keep you from getting where God called you to be. It's people that sometimes open the doors. God would use an unjust judge to bless a widow and avenge a widow. Wait, so how much more do you think he would do for you? Sometimes you got to befriend some people that you know don't like you, but they in your life because God called them to be there to help you get to where he called you to be. The person at your job don't like you. You got to bear with them, because they're helping build you so you could get to that next job. You might not run it like they run it. Now you get to run it better because you've been in there training for so long. You get to see how you would run something different. Oh. So God will keep you in places that he says, it will only be me that brings you out of this situation. Oh, so we got to be careful. Look at verse 15, and we're almost out of here. We almost out. 15, it says, and so it was when Gideon heard the telling of the dream. Let me pause right here. What he did is he went back and he told this story. He told this dream about how it was like a barley loaf rolling down the hill and took over the camp, and what that symbolized somebody that was less than, that was going to come in and overtake something that may have been more powerful. That barley loaf was just a common piece of it was a common food that anybody could be a part of. And so it was saying that this common thing, this common person, this common attack is going to come and it's going to overtake. And so now they're at the place, and he's like, look at 15, it says, and so it was when Gideon heard the telling of this dream, and the people knew it was supposed to, even the enemy knew it was supposed to be Gideon. Even your enemies, that's why your enemy's trying to keep you out of place, because they see the blessing that's on your life. And some of them mad, and they trying to build obstacles because you are there to take over. Look at somebody and say, I'm here to take over. It says in telling of the dream and its interpretation, it says that he what? He worshiped. That he what? That he what? Then he returned to the camp of Israel and said, arise, for the Lord has delivered the camp of Midian into your hands. You got to worship God even though you're going through your situation. That's point number 3, by the way. You got to not forget to worship God. See, the thing is, they were already there ready to go. And it took him to go down there and see this. And once he saw it, he worshiped. But the thing that stood out to me so much, he worshiped God before he went into the battle. Some of y'all are waiting to win the battle before you start worshiping. You got to worship God even before you go in the battle. See, your worship symbolizes your surrender. Your worship symbolizes your faith. You can't worship something you don't have faith in. You ought to be worshiping God, not for what he's just doing right now, but for what he is going to do. You got to worship him in season and out of season. You got to worship him when you're going through and when you're doing good. You got to worship him when you're low and when you're up. You got to worship him during all times. You can't forget to worship him. See, until this point, Gideon hadn't been worshipful. He's been doubting. And so what that would symbolize is that he didn't have the faith. But when he decided to turn his eyes on God and worship him, it meant he believed. Some of us are struggling right now. You are struggling and you're doubting and you believe I can't move until I know for sure. But the Lord is saying, I need you to worship me even in your doubt, and I will make it clear for you. But we can't wait till the victory is over to worship the Lord. Somebody give God a praise.